So hello everyone, in this video let us try to see some of the tips and tricks to crack UGC NET examination. In this video we will be specifically looking at paper 2, that is law subject. In my previous video I have mentioned you about what are the tips and tricks or the important areas to focus related to UGC NET examination in paper 1, which is a common paper which will be there for all the subjects, but this video is specifically there only for this particular law subject. And then in this video let us try to see some of the concepts which should be read before going to appear for UGC NET examination. And before going further, this is my introduction. I am Bhagavathra Nagasai Sriram. I have qualified UGC NET as well as APSET examination in the year 2024, and I am also a gold medalist at DSNLU Vizag. With this introduction, let us now proceed for the syllabus of UGC NET paper 2, which is specifically to the law subject, right? In the unit 1 is talking about jurisprudence, unit 2 is talking about constitutional and administrative law, unit 3 is talking about public international and international humanitarian law, unit 4 is talking about law of crimes, unit 5 is talking about law of torts and consumer protection, Unit 6 is talking about commercial law. Unit 7 is talking about family law. Unit 8 is talking about environment and human rights law. Unit 9 is talking about intellectual property rights and information technology law. Unit 10 is talking about comparative public law and systems of governance. So these are the 10 units which will be there in UGC NET paper 2 law examination, and based on this syllabus you will be asked to write or you will be asked to attempt 100 questions. So as I told in my previous video also, UGC NET will be having 150 questions in total. 50 questions will be there from paper 1, that is a general subject, teaching and research aptitude, and from paper 2, that is a law subject, you will be getting 100 questions and you have to answer 100 questions from this particular syllabus. Now we will proceed further and let us try to see what are the important concepts which you need to focus on from unit to unit. So, and the main disclaimer I wanted to give is that this particular topics or most scoring topics or anything is only based on the patterns as seen in the previous year questions. You might get these questions or you might not get these questions, but there is no 100% guarantee that if you study these concepts you will be scoring well. But based on the trend as seen in previous year question papers, you need to focus on all of these aspects or else you will be having a chance to get a lesser marks, right? So with this introduction, let us try to move on to the unit 1, that is jurisprudence. It is having very high weightage and you can expect a minimum of 8 to 10 questions, and you need to remember that all the units also is having an element of comprehension as well. As I have told in the previous video, the unit 3 or 4 if I'm not wrong, so that is talking about reading comprehension in paper 1. Like that only, from these 10 units at least you can expect one or two paragraph based questions and related to the concepts as given under these 10 units, right? So you can expect a minimum of 8 to 10 questions from this particular unit related to jurisprudence. You must do are the following topics which are extremely repetitive. The out of is the theories or this particular schools of jurisprudence is very important. You need to have a look at natural law theory, Aquinas, Finis, etc., and there are other jurists also who will be there in this particular school of thought. Next one is analytical positivism. You need to study about Austin command and sovereign, HLA, Hart rule of recognition, etc., and whatever the type of things, the what are the proponents of this particular jurist you need to study. Next one, sociological school, you need to see about Roscoe Pound social engineering and whatever the other type of jurists who are there in this particular thing also you need to focus. Then historical school, you need to focus about Savigny, that is Volgist concept, so that one also you need to study very well. Next one is realist skill. You need to study about the concepts of American realism, not just focused on that, but you need to study what are the main principles proponed by Gray and Frank, etc. So all of these things also need to make sure. Next one, the justice concept, which is distributive versus corrective. What is the John Rawls theory of justice? So that is all also you need to study. And finally, rights and duties. What is the classification of right? What becomes a right? What becomes a duty? Whether the legal rights will be there, moral rights will be there. What is a duty? All of these things were also very important because we might expect frequently repeated questions from this particular area. So with this particular backdrop, you need to refer to the schools of jurisprudence, who is the jurist related to that particular school, and what is his contribution, what is the main proponent of that particular jurist. That is also very very important. And you can expect a certain type of multiple choice to match the following based questions related to what jurist has written what book, or some sort of match the following can also be expected from this particular area. So with this, now let us now try to move to unit 2. Unit 2 is talking about constitutional law. This is also another high scoring unit. You can expect a minimum of 10 to 12 questions based on the past trend. Out of is the most repeated areas will be the fundamental rights, essentially article 14, 19 and 21. What are the different tests which you need to follow, what are the doctrines will be there, and what are the landmark cases which will be there. So all of these things is very very important when it comes to this particular constitutional law. Next one is basic structure doctrine. What are the components as propounded in Keshwarananda Bharati case, Minerva Wills case, and also this national judicial NJC, National Judicial Appointment Commission 2015. What is the constitutional amendment, any other type of things is also very very important. Next comes the judicial review and public interest litigation, how it has evolved and what is the scope of it, who is the main person like Justice PN Bhagavati, what is his contribution. So all of these things also need to focus well. Next one is doctrine of separation of powers. Doctrine of separation of powers is also very important. Who should be doing what is the role of legislature, what is the role of the executive, what is the role of this particular judiciary, what is the checks and balances, everything is also very important. Equally important is the emergency provisions. What is article 352, 356, 360, what is under what conditions emergency can be declared, etc. That is also very very important. Next comes the amendment power. Amendment power under article 368 is also very very important. Next comes the center and state relations. What is the legislative relations between this particular center and state, what is the central list, state list, and concurrent list, under what type of things the a person is having an authority to legislate, and also the administrative and financial relations is also equally important. So all these topics are very very important when it comes to the constitutional law, because you can expect a minimum of 10 to 12 questions. So you need to compulsorily focus on fundamental rights, basic structure doctrine, judicial review, doctrine of separation of powers, emergency provisions, amendment power, and also the central state relations. That is very very important. Next unit comes is this your particular public international law. This is highly predictable because you need to focus on some of the concepts. So what are the repeated topics is that sources of international law, what are the different types of sources, whether they are treaties, customs, and very specifically article 38 of International Court of Justice is talking about what are the important sources of this particular international law, whether juristic writings can be considered as a source, or whether this particular case laws can be considered as a source, or etc etc, right? Next comes the state recognition, de facto versus de jure. So for this the example can be, if at all any kind of extremist has taken the control of the government in a particular territory, whether we can give the recognition as a state, and who has to give, and what is the de facto recognition and de jure recognition. De facto means by the matter of fact, de jure means by the matter of law, and whether you are trying to enter into agreement with another territory. So that concept is also very very important. Next comes the state responsibility. State responsibility means, if at all one country is declaring a war on another country, what is the responsibility of the state and what obligations it is having. If at all any kind of bilateral agreement is there between two countries, and who has to do this particular agreement, and what is the responsibility of the state. The concept is very wide and it is very very important. Next comes the treaties. Some of the international treaties such as Vienna Convention or treaties, conventions, and also all this type of agreements, this is very very important. Next comes the jurisdiction of the states. That means if a state wants to file a case against another state, what is the jurisdiction which is having, whether territorial jurisdiction is there, subject matter jurisdiction is there, or any kind of this particular test will be there to determine the jurisdiction. That is also very very important when it comes to public international law. Next comes the extradition and asylum. Extradition and asylum is very important when person who is declared as a criminal or who has committed an criminal act has fled to another country, and now you are requesting the particular person to be remanded back or to be taken back to your home country. So what is the process of extradition? What is SLM? SLM is usually there for this type of political offenders. What is the type of things involved and what country should be following what, etc. It's very very important. Next comes the United Nations organs and functions. What is the role of United Nations? What are the different types of bodies? What are the sources of funding? How many permanent members will be there in United Nations? What is the function of Security Council? All of this thing is very very important when it comes to public international law. So till now we have seen jurisprudence. Jurisprudence we have told to see all this type of schools of thought, and also what are the books which they have written, and you can expect multiple choice based questions also. And also you need to study which jurist is related to what school and what principles he has followed. Second one is constitutional law. In this we have told about the basic components, such as from basic structure to the landmark cases, and also your fundamental rights, as well as this particular public interest litigation, doctrine of separation of powers, and central state relations, and the amendment powers. Who is having the power to amend a particular legislation? What falls under state list? What falls under concrete list? What falls under the union list? So all of these things is very very important, and it is also one of the high scoring unit. Next one we just told you right now is related to public international law. Next one, now we this is one more important unit with respect to the UGC NET paper 2, that is related to the law of crimes. So in that the focus area should be on mens rea and actus reus. These are most essential elements of a crime or any kind of criminal liability. If you want to impose on a person, he needs to focus on mens rea and actus reus. Next one is stages of the crime is also equally important. Intention, preparation, attempt, and abetment, all of this thing is very very important. You need to study the nitty-gritty of what thing. For example, if a person has done anything out of negligence, what is his particular thing? Or if a person has done intentionally but it can be justified, what are the exceptions to it? So that is also very very important. Next comes the concept of joint liability. This particular thing is mentioned under common intention, common object. What is the difference between common intention and common object? Everything is very very important when it comes to the joint liability. That means even if one person has not committed an act, but another person is a part of a gang who has committed a crime, what is the liability on him? That is also very very important. Next comes the general exceptions. I have told you right now also, there can be justifiable acts, there can be certain type of activities through which you can be excluded from the punishment. Some of the things can be medical insanity will be there, or any kind of lunacy will be there. That means a children who has committed a crime less than this particular a person who is having less than 7 years of age, that he will be considered as a child, and whatever kind of offense he will be committing, and it is not punishable under law. So all those type of things, and also intoxication, when it can be taken, when what is the particular concept of mistake, or all these type of things, and any kind of private defense will be there. So all of these things is very very important. Next comes is punishment theories and types. So what is the particular types and theories of punishment? You might have several theories, such as this type of retributive theory, compensatory theory, all this type of deterrent theory. What is the theory and what is the different types? So now we are having another type of concept, that is punishment, in our new criminal law, that is Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. That is a community service. Why it was introduced? What is the type of thing? Restorative justice concept. So all of these things is very very important. Next comes the concept of criminal conspiracy. When a person is said to have committed a criminal conspiracy, you need to see about Nalini versus state of Tamil Nadu, that is the Rajiv Gandhi assassination case. All of those things and lot of cases are very very important, which you need to focus on, right? Next comes the differentiation between the old criminal laws and the new criminal laws. That is, the old IPC, CRPC, and Evidence Act have been replaced by BNS, BNSS, and BSA. So what is the major difference between all of this thing? And then you might not read the section of law, but you need to understand this particular thing. So from this area also you might expect at least 5 to 6 good number of questions related to law of crimes. Next comes the law of torts and consumer protection. You This is one of the unit where you can easily score marks if you focus on the following topics which are frequently repeated. So out of it, the first one is strict liability and absolute liability. What is the difference between strict liability? What is the difference between absolute liability? Can you have any defenses with respect to strict and absolute liability? What trial and such as Fletcher case is there? What MC Mehta case, that is the Bhopal gas tragedy case is telling whether they can be having any kind of exceptions. All of this thing is very, very important. Next comes the negligence. In that, what is your duty? What is the breach of duty? What if at all a person is having a duty and he has breached that and it caused a damage, what is the liability on him? That is also very, very important. Next comes the defamation can be done by through two ways. One is libel and one is slander. Libel is through writing form and the slander is through by usage of words or to usage of tongue. You are demeaning someone or you are trying to this particular lower the reputation of some person, that will be considered as the defamation. In what cases the defamation won't be punishable, in what cases it will be punishable, what are the subclassifications is very, very important. Next comes the vicarious liability. Vicarious liability concept says if a person is being held responsible due to the acts of another person, that means a servant is made liable to the acts of this particular, the servant has committed an activity during the course of his business and the master will be held responsible. So like that type of things also it will be, this particular thing will also be very, very important when it comes to law of torts and consumer protection, wherein you can get easy marks. Next one is Consumer Protection Act 2019. What are the rights of the consumers? What are the different forums will be there? What is the jurisdiction, right? So different types of rights will be there for the consumers: right to be heard, right to have a choice, right to seek grievance redressal, or whatever kind of, what is the jurisdiction of commission, central consumer protection authority, and all of these things is very, very important. If you focus on these areas you can score very well. Next one is your commercial law. This is very such unit wherein you might find a lot of topics, but if you selectively study you can score good marks. Out of which the must read concepts were Indian Contract Act 1870, out of which you need to have a very good clarity of what is offer, what is acceptance, what is consideration, what are the void agreements. So all of these things is very, very important. Void, voidable, and all this type of, when a consent is said to be a free consent, what is coercion, what is type of undue influence, all of these things are very, very important. Next one is breach of contract and remedies also is very important when it comes to, if a person has entered into a contract and he has tried to this particular, he is not performing his promise, what is the remedy which is available to him also is very important. Next comes the Sale of Goods Act. What is the condition, what is the warranty, what is the difference between the condition and a warranty, all of these things is also very important. Next comes the Negotiable Instruments Act. Negotiable Instruments Act, holder in due course, and also different types of negotiable instruments. And also in the negotiable instruments also, what is the difference between check, promissory note and bill of exchange, how many parties will be there, and what is the compensation part with respect to the Negotiable Instruments Act also is very important. Next comes the Company Law Basics. That means Companies Act 2013 is already there. What is the duty of the director, what is the duty of this particular persons who are the shareholders, what are the rights of the shareholders, winding up meetings, all the women directors, one person company, all of these concepts were very important. If you selectively study these concepts you will be scoring very good marks. Next comes the family law. Family law is very, you can have a short reading of the concepts which are very repeated, and based on that, you will be able to score well in your particular examination. Out of it, the Hindu Marriage Act, obviously, marriage, divorce, and maintenance is very important. Muslim law also, with respect to the talaq, recently triple talaq has been declared as a punishable offense, in what case it was discussed, and what type of rights are getting violated, all of these things is also very, very important. And what is the maintenance of Muslim women, what case, Shabanu case, Shahrabanu case, or all those type of things which are landmark in nature is also very, very important. Next comes the adoption and guardianship. What provisions of law should be followed by Hindus, Muslims, and Christians? What is Indian Succession Act talking about? What is the Juvenile Justice Act talking about with regard to adoption and guardianship is also very important. Next comes the Uniform Civil Code debates. That means now we are saying Article 44 of the Indian Constitution says that it is a duty of the state to have a uniform civil code. So uniform civil code in the aspects of marriage, divorce, adoption, and guardianship. What is Article 44? What is the type of Uttarakhand uniform civil code which is there? So all of those aspects also you need to study. That is very important. Next comes the environmental law. This is very, very important unit, because this particular unit, as I told in my previous video also, if you study some of the basic concepts in your paper 1, that is unit 9, people development and environment also, you will be able to score good in this particular unit. So some of the repeated themes are sustainable development or polluter pays principle, precautionary principle, public trust doctrine, environmental protection act 1986. Some of the acts I have not mentioned, such as air act, water act, and also this particular other type of things which is there. So that is what is the jurisdiction of national green tribunal, how many benches were there, and what is the type of case the National Green Tribunal can be there, and what is Wildlife Protection Act. All of these things were also very important. Climate change and international environmental law also, like I told you about the sequence of the agreements which you need to, such as a Kyoto Protocol or all those type of things, was also very important when it comes to the environmental law unit. This is also very high scoring unit. Next comes the human rights and international humanitarian law. This is also very high scoring particular unit, out of which you need to read all these concepts compulsory. That is the unit declaration of universal declaration of human rights, UDHR. Next one is ICCPR, ICESR, international covenant on civil and political rights, international covenant on economic, social and cultural rights. So what, whether India is a signatory to all of this, what rights India has adopted, and what provisions are there in the Indian constitution related to that, all of these things is very important. Next comes the NHRC, powers and functions. When you talk about human rights, you need to study about National Human Rights Commission, State Human Rights Commission. What is the power? What is the function of NHRC, SHRC? That is also very important. Next comes the women and child rights. What are the legislations or the acts which is there to protect the rights of the children? What are the rights and acts which is there to protect the rights of this particular woman? Like Prevention of Sexual Harassment at Workplace Act is there, or any kind of prevention of protection of women from domestic violence act is there, or when it comes to Children Juvenile Justice Act, Care and Protection Act is there, or any kind of prohibition of child marriage act is there. So all of these things also is very important. Next comes the refugees and stateless persons, how to deal with those particular persons. So that is also very important. Next comes the Geneva Conventions. That is also very important when it comes to human rights law, international humanitarian law, right? Next comes the intellectual property rights. Intellectual property rights also, you need not study entire thing because you cannot complete, but out of which the repeated areas are related to the copyright with respect to the authorship and infringement. If at all you wanted to write a book, and then who can be the author of that particular book, and then if at all one person is making a copy of it, and what are the remedies which you can have, what are the different type of injunctions which you can get, that is also very important. Next one is patents. What can be patented, what cannot be patented, compulsory licensing. For example, during COVID time, we have got all this type of vaccines through emergency approval. So whether it is a compulsory licensing or whether it is patented or evergreening of patents, so all of this thing is very important. Next one is trademarks. What is infringement? What is passing off? What are the remedies for this particular this particular rights recognized under civil law? And what is a common law remedy? All of these things is very important. Next one is geographical indications. What is a geographical indication? Now you will say Tirupati Laddu or any kind of Araku coffee or whatever kind of Darjeeling tea or Kanchipuram silk. So what is a geographical indication? When it will be given? All of this thing is also very important. Next comes the WIPO and TRIPS. That means World Intellectual Property Rights Organization and the TRIPS agreement. What is the agreement between this particular UN Central Model Law related to that also? What are the different type of things will be there? So all of these things is very important when it comes to intellectual property rights. So you need to mostly focus on trademarks, copyrights, and patents. So that will give you good scope for scoring well in your examination. With this, we have come to the end of the video. So thank you so much and all the best for your examination. My only advice is to start reading the questions immediately as soon as the question appears on your screen, and don't answer it in a hurry. Please try to double read the question whether any kind of not is there, because most of the times they might ask you which is not a relevant concept, and then you might get confused and then you might give the wrong answer. So that is why read the question properly and read the options carefully and then keep it. So by with that particular thing, you should be able to score very well in your examination. All the best for your UGC NET examination, and I hope, sincerely hope, that you will score very well and then qualify for the UGC NET examination. Thank you so much, and then have a good day.